The Leica Q3. Is it a hype? Who is it really for? And how can this camera improve your filmmaking? I'm Kristian, Warwick, full-time filmmaker and photographer. I work with brands like Oakley, Red Bull, BMW, and on this channel you can expect to learn about filmmaking, photography, and most importantly, how to build yourself a sustainable business as a creative. Well, I've had this Q3 for almost 1 year, and I bought it because I wanted to become a better filmmaker and photographer. But is that an honest statement? Or did I buy into the hype about this camera? Well, 1 year later, I'd say it's a little bit of both. I'm sorry, it's actually definitely a hype. A hype I'm proud to be a part of, and a hype that has helped me as a creative. Why is it a hype? Well, except for the obvious, which is the price, $6,000. It is a camera not too different from any other camera that I've owned. And although you have the famous Leica look, I'm not sure if it's different enough from my Sony to justify such an investment. But I am a creative and I love gear. I'm a tech freak, and I don't know if justification plays a big enough role in my life at the moment to kind of even think about it or consider it. Ironically, you will understand the hype when you hold it in your hands for the first time. For me, it was my first ever Leica, and I'm sorry Sony, but when holding a Leica for the first time, it feels like driving a Ferrari. Nothing can really compare to that. And so I bought into the hype. I made it my go-to camera for just about everything. I used it for sport photography, city life, family photos, and it became my best friend on all of my travels. And it worked for everything. If the photo was taken too far away, I would crop it. If I needed to get closer to my object, I'd run. If I didn't like the angle, I'd move. And this is why I got this camera. With a fixed 28mm, you don't have the privilege of changing lenses or using a zoom lens to get the shot you want. You need to move. You need to be more creative. After years and years and years of doing the same thing, taking the same photos, making the same films, I needed a change. I needed a creative challenge. And man, has this camera challenged me. In the beginning, I sucked. I didn't know how to frame every shot with a semi-wide lens. And yes, we can argue forever if 28 is a semi-wide lens or not, but the fact is that it definitely feels like it at times. I've always loved and found some kind of support through a lens like the 70-200. You just can't go wrong with a close-up like that. And honestly, I feel like it was cheating. And that was confirmed when I had my first shoot with the Q3. If it wasn't for the hype, I think I would have sold it the day after I got it. I pretended like I loved it. But on the inside, I was like, is this it? It was hard to frame it, or frame my shots. It took forever to do a burst sequence because writing to the SD card was a pain in the ass. It would freeze all the time, and the autofocus was worse than my old Panasonic GH5. And if you don't get the reference, it was really bad. I actually paid $6,000 for this, but then I discovered Monochrome. Just kidding. Or honestly, look at this. Everything looks good with Monochrome. But jokes aside, I decided to give it some more time and brought it to the Speed Skating World Cup. This is where I realized I loved it. Not only did it give me a vibe and some shots that were more unique, it made me more playful, more creative, and honestly, a bit more proud of my work. It was just what I wanted. That was my intention of getting the Q3 in the first place. And it has just kept on giving. But let's talk about the elephant in the room that I just introduced, because I was shitting on some of the basic functions a minute ago. And you might be like, well, those are pretty big red flags, aren't they? Let's talk about the issues, the technical winning part of this camera, and why I am a different photographer and filmmaker because of it. Because this is, after all, a filmmaking channel. So number one, it's hard to frame your shots. That's what I said. Well, this is on you, and this is on me. It's on us as photographers, and this was the motivation behind getting this in the first place. It took me a while to get used to it, and I'm still learning. But when you realize the ability to frame your shots well with a fixed 28, it will make you better at just about everything you do with a camera. It's worth the hassle. I started seeing the world differently. I saw shots like this, and I tried to replicate a famous photo like this. I'm not sure if it worked, but it still just made me more creative, different shots. And I've taken advantage of this in all my work as a photographer and filmmaker. I see shots I wouldn't usually see. I take advantage of where I am, like where I'm placed, and I have gotten better at using lights and shadows in my shots. Because honestly, it feels like there's a bit of a pressure when you're shooting with a Q3. With this red dotted brand, you need to be more creative, more playful, and plan the shots better. So the issue of hard to frame your shot that I presented solved. Okay, issue number two. Burst scenes take forever. At first I thought it was my SD card. I thought I needed a different brand, although I had a fast one. I had a 300 megabytes per second V90, and that's also what I got. Top of the class, expensive SD cards. This didn't help. Still the same problem. Writing took forever, and it would even freeze. On the first day, my first shoot, my $6,000 camera. The brutal truth was found on the internet. The Q3 is not meant for sport photography, and burst scenes like what you're requesting will not be realistic. So I bought a camera without a feature I would have loved to use. And not that I use it a lot, but I think I should be able to expect this feature to work, right? Because it's not like it's not there, it just writes so slowly. But before I cut the head off the Leica for this, it's worth mentioning that I was shooting with the highest quality files, the large ones, 60 megapixels camera, where one photo is like this one. It's almost 90 megabytes. I guess I should give the camera some slack. When I went to the World Cup a few days after receiving the camera, I was able to do some burst sequences, and the good thing was that I was able to use it, and although the writing took some time, the results were pretty good. Shooting on low shutter with the burst sequence mode gave me some shots I've never been able to get before. Getting clear shots like this one of speed skaters moving at 40 miles per hour is not easy. But I found it to be easier with the Q3 than with any of my Sony cameras. Even with a shutter at 30, I got some crispy shots. And I mean crispy, they're pretty clear. So I learned that I can't expect the Q3 to write super fast in that mode, and I couldn't expect to start a new burst sequence immediately after ending one. But that's fine. So if you're in need of a burst mode camera with the ability to just do 60 megabytes at high speed, this is not for you. I mean, it's almost unrealistic in the first place. But you can also get shots like these, and I am a fan of that. One thing that is important to point out here is that by shooting with the settings on smaller files, you'd have much less problems. So you obviously can change the settings and you can do burst sequences. It's just you can't really take advantage of the full quality of the camera. Number 3, it freezes. I don't know if I'm spoiled with my Sonys and the fact that I've never had it freeze on me, or like barely, but I have to take out the battery on the Q3 way too often. It even freezes when I turn it on, when I try to look at the photos and at random times. And it sucks. There's not much to say about this other than the fact that the other benefits of this camera weighs up for this. But the fact also is that this $6,000 camera freezes way too often. And it is a problem. Number 4, awful autofocus. I didn't buy this for the autofocus, but I have to say it lets me down more than I appreciate. But there is also something about being was that you? Good with manual focus. I learned filmmaking without autofocus, and I am proud of the results when I take the great photos that I get with manual focus. It just makes me more proud. So in the cases where I see that the autofocus will fail me, I will switch to manual focus and it's good. In my opinion, I think the camera can expect us as users to be good enough to work without autofocus. Although we as users might be entitled to better autofocus at this price. We keep coming back to this price, but I think that makes sense with the price tag and the hype of it. But again, I got this to become a better filmmaker and photographer. Manual focus is a big part of that, at least in my opinion. And I get to practice every time I use my Q3. Some of you might have left the video by now because you realize this camera is not for you. I don't mean to paint a picture of this camera as being bad, because it's everything but bad, that is. It's just that these things are important for you as a user to know about before getting it. Because you can't expect these things to be things you pay for. Does that make sense? You're not paying for the autofocus or the burst sequences when getting the Q3. Let's talk about why you should get it, or why the hype is real and almost justified. Almost. And also, what could be a cheaper option if it's kind of out of your budget. I'm just gonna pause it here to remind you to subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Let's get back to the video. I mentioned it, it's a Leica. It's the feeling. And this sounds like a lame ad by now, but it's true. This is what it feels like. I even made a friend because I had a Leica. Hi Johnny. It looks like a small travel camera, but that little red dot catches the attention from other photography people. The Leica connects you with other people, and it actually gives you more of a benefit when you're telling clients what you're shooting with. When I got it, I was in love with Monochrome, the Leica look, the build, and the 60 megapixels. But there was also something else that impressed me. Let's start with the megapixels. And number 1 is the 60 megapixels. I never had a camera with more than 33 megapixels, and I didn't know how much I'd appreciate 60. Some would argue it's overkill, too big of files, and not necessary unless you're blowing it up and hanging it up on the wall. The truth is that with the Q3, the 60 megapixels actually does everything for me. In some cases, I am physically not able to move closer to what I'm shooting, and I need to crop in. I've had some crazy experiences cropping with the files from the Q3. I mean, honestly, look at these. I never thought this was possible, and it has become a regular topic of conversations when talking about this beast. The photos and examples usually blow people's minds. So if your Mac or PC can handle it, it's worth the upgrade. And I'm very much aware of the fact that more megapixels might lead to more noise, but I will touch more on this later when talking about the looks. The Leica Looks. Number 2, the build. I've already talked about it, so I'm not gonna dive much deeper into it, but the solid build, the feeling I get when holding it, and how it feels in my hands is like nothing else. It honestly makes me feel like a superstar. Is that okay to say? You just have to experience it. Okay, number 3, the Leica Look. There is something about the Leica look, and if you've seen photos on Leica's Instagram or other photographers who are shooting with the Leica, you know what I'm talking about. And yes, I did introduce this with maybe not being big enough of a difference, but it is a big difference. It's hard to explain. I feel like it's more contrast, but I still find it to be a softer look. The color's just different. I love the blue that I get out of it. The skin color feels natural and real. When I play with shadows, they just seem to be different than other cameras. And I'm not sure if I'm just being hyped up about it because of the hype. And the look is not very affected in low light. I will get back to that. The Leica look might be a hype, or something we all just are obsessed with, but I still love it. Is that weird? I don't know. But having a camera of this quality that gives me this look is just different for me. It feels better somehow. I don't know. Number 4, the presets, or what they actually call the Leica Looks. I love that I can add this to the JPEG versions of my photos, because I can transfer them to my phone and post them directly 1 minute after shooting with the Leica Photos app. The JPEG versions of the photos have the Leica look burned into them, and I love a lot of them. At the same time, I don't like taking shortcuts like that on the photos I usually use professionally or even on my Instagram posts. I like making my own edits. And yes, they are heavily influenced by other Leica looks. But these presets are so nice to have and great tools. The Monochrome is the one I like the most, because sometimes I just want that look and I want to see it before I shoot and before I get back to my Mac. And honestly, it might fool you a bit, because the Monochrome makes just about anything look cool. Take a photo of your keyboard with Monochrome and it will look artistic. Just saying. Number 5, better at low shutter. Well, I have noticed something about the Q3 that stands out from other cameras I've had, and that is how sharp it is at low shutter. Compared to other cameras I've used, it has significantly better result at those lower values. And that is very handy in low light conditions, but also when I'm panning. When I'm taking shots like this, keep coming back to these skaters, it is great to be able to use 30 and still get crispy shots. Number 6, low light performance. I've not had any issues with blasting the ISO a little bit on this one, and with a fast lens 1.7 and low shutter, it usually ends up in a great way even when it's dark. Look at these shots from Vietnam and a street block party that we had there. In general, I see that we added a lot of grain when shooting with cameras that give no grain. It's ironic. But because this style is so popular, I also don't see any problems with getting a bit of grain in a shot because the ISO is blasted even more. I mean, cameras are getting great, but we're still adding grain in post. So I get it. You are watching this, you want a Q3, and it's not available anywhere. And if it is, you still have to be willing to spend a lot of money. So what do? Well, I know it's a lot, and I know you can't get anything just like it. But I would say that the camera most of my friends own, the Fuji X100VI, is a good option if you want to spend less money. And I'm not going to go into the details of that camera, and it's a different focal length, but look at these photos my best friend Kristian took. I think you'll understand what I mean. You get a lot of the same look, and it's not that big of a difference. Lastly, what has this camera done to me as a photographer and filmmaker? It has changed some things. Some that I've noticed myself, and some things that might just help me without me even being aware of it. I've definitely become more creative with the way I shoot. I find new angles, I am better at shooting wide, and I bring what's good about the Q3 and it's the looks that I get from it into my planning and the thought process of shooting something. I'm more confident in my work and what I do, not because of the camera, but because of what the camera has taught me. I've started enjoying wide shooting more than before. I'm using lights and shadows even more and in a different way. Not just on the object like on me, but the background and a shot that I make and wherever the light comes into the frame. It's just something has changed. Tomorrow I will get my Q3 43mm and I'm super excited. I'm curious if I will keep both of these cameras or if I will realize one is much better than the other. Not better as in better specs, but better for me. I've fallen in love with the 28mm, but something still tells me that 43 might be even more me. And so we'll see. Maybe I'll even keep both, and those will be my two go-to cameras, and my Sony A7R5 might just be sold. Who knows? And before you go, remember that you can easily sign up for free for a Musicbed subscription and get some benefits by hitting the link down below. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll hopefully get a great comparison with the new Leica Q3 43mm.